My wedding dress still smells of betrayal. I should be sipping champagne with my new husband, but instead I'm staring at a plane ticket to a nightmare. Lila stood in the airport terminal, her white sundress fluttering in the air-conditioned breeze, clutching the boarding pass for what was supposed to be the happiest trip of her life. She and Ethan had planned their honeymoon for months. A week in the Maldives, turquoise waters, private dinners, and promises of forever. But now her heart thudded with a sickening rhythm as she scanned the crowd. Ethan was late. And worse, she'd just seen a text on his phone from his father. "Richard, don't worry, son. I've got everything sorted for the trip. You'll thank me later." Sorted? Sorted how? Lila's gut twisted. Richard had always been overbearing, a man who thought money could fix anything, including his son's poor choices. She'd felt his disapproval from the moment they met, his cold eyes sizing her up as if she were a used car Ethan had foolishly bought. But this was a new low. When Ethan finally arrived, his face pale and jaw tight, Lila knew something was wrong. "What's going on?" she demanded, her voice sharp enough to cut through the terminal's hum. He hesitated, running a hand through his dark hair. "Lila, I didn't know. I swear. My dad, he booked us on a different trip. Not the Maldives. He sent us to Bali," and his words faltered, eyes darting away. "And what?" Lila pressed, her pulse spiking. "He invited Jessica." Lila's world tilted. Jessica. Ethan's ex-girlfriend of 2 years. The one Richard had adored, the one he'd called the perfect match for his son. Lila had heard the stories, Jessica's charm, her poise, her ability to win over Ethan's family in ways Lila never could. But Jessica had broken Ethan's heart, leaving him for a richer man before circling back when she heard he was engaged. Lila had thought she was a ghost, a memory. Now she was a very real threat, invited by Richard to crash their honeymoon. Why? Lila's voice cracked, her hands trembling. Why would he do this? Ethan looked down, shame flooding his features. He thinks you're not right for me. He said this trip would open my eyes. He paid for everything, Lila. The resort, the flights, even Jessica's ticket. He's trying to, I don't know, sabotage us. Lila's knees buckled, but she caught herself on the edge of a chair. Sabotage. The word echoed in her mind, sharp and cruel. She'd fought so hard to prove herself to Ethan, to his family, to the world. She wasn't from their polished, wealthy world. She'd grown up in a small apartment with a single mom, scraping by, earning her degree through sleepless nights and scholarships. Ethan had loved her for her grit, her heart. Or so she thought. "We're not going," she said, her voice low but firm. "We'll book our own trip. We don't need his money." Ethan's eyes widened. "Lila, we can't just, Dad's already paid thousands. If we don't go, he'll cut me off. You know how he is." "Cut you off?" Lila laughed, a bitter sound. "Ethan, this is our marriage. Our life. And you're letting him control it." He flinched, but before he could respond, a familiar voice cut through the air. "Trouble in paradise already?" Lila turned, her heart sinking as Jessica sauntered toward them, her designer sunglasses perched on her head, a smirk curling her lips. She was everything Lila wasn't. Tall, effortlessly elegant, with a confidence that screamed privilege. Behind her stood Richard, his silver hair gleaming under the airport lights, his expression smug. "Lila, dear," Richard said, his tone dripping with condescension. "You look stressed. Don't worry, I've planned a perfect trip for you both. And Jessica's presence will broaden your perspective." Lila's fists clenched. "This is our honeymoon, Richard. You had no right." He raised an eyebrow, unfazed. "I'm protecting my son. You'll thank me when you see what's best for him." The flight to Bali was torture. Lila sat beside Ethan, who stared out the window, silent. Jessica was 3 rows ahead, laughing loudly with a flight attendant, her voice a constant reminder of the intrusion. Richard, seated in first class, sent a bottle of champagne to their row with a note. "To new beginnings." Lila wanted to scream. At the resort, the situation worsened. The villa Richard had booked was stunning ocean views, infinity pool, tropical gardens, but it wasn't theirs alone. Richard had reserved a family suite, with Jessica's room connected by a shared balcony. Every morning, Lila woke to the sound of Jessica's laughter drifting through the walls, or worse, Richard's voice praising her as they sipped coffee together. Ethan, caught in the middle, seemed paralyzed, torn between loyalty to his father and love for Lila. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Lila found Jessica alone by the pool, her silhouette framed against the glowing water. "You're enjoying this, aren't you?" Lila said, her voice steady despite the fire in her chest. Jessica turned, her smile sharp. "Oh, Lila, I don't need to enjoy it. I just need to win." "Win what?" Lila snapped. "Ethan? He chose me." "Did he?" Jessica tilted her head, her eyes glinting. "Or did he settle? Richard knows I'm better for him. And deep down, Ethan does too." Lila's breath caught, the words slicing through her. She wanted to fight, to scream, but doubt crept in. Was she enough? Had Ethan ever truly chosen her over his family's expectations? That night, she confronted Ethan in their room. "Do you want this?" she asked, tears burning her eyes. "Do you want me? Or are you just too weak to stand up to your father?" Ethan's face crumpled. "Lila, I love you. I do. But Dad, he's always been like this. He controls everything. If I fight him, I lose everything: me job, my inheritance, my family. And if you don't fight him, you lose me," Lila said, her voice breaking. The next day, Richard orchestrated a group activity, a boat tour to a nearby island. Lila watched as Jessica leaned close to Ethan, whispering something that made him laugh. Richard caught Lila's eye and smiled, as if daring her to react. She felt like a pawn in his game, her marriage a battlefield. But something shifted inside her. She wasn't a pawn. She was Lila, the girl who'd clawed her way out of nothing, who'd built a life on her own terms. She wasn't going to let Richard or Jessica take that from her. At dinner that night, Lila made her move. She stood, glass in hand, her voice carrying over the table. "Richard, I know what you're doing. You think you can buy Ethan's future, that you can choose who he loves. But you can't. Love isn't a transaction. And Ethan." She turned to her husband, her heart pounding. "You need to decide. Right now. Me or them." The table fell silent. Jessica's smirk faded. Richard's eyes narrowed. Ethan stared at Lila, his face a storm of emotions. For a moment she thought she'd lost him. Then he stood, his chair scraping against the floor. "Dad," he said, his voice shaking but firm. "You're done controlling me. Lila's my wife. My choice. If you can't accept that, we're done." Richard's face darkened, but he said nothing. Jessica scoffed, tossing her napkin on the table and storming off. Lila's heart soared, but the victory felt fragile. The rest of the trip was tense. Richard left early, claiming a business emergency. Jessica lingered, but her charm had lost its power. Ethan and Lila spent their final days reclaiming their honeymoon, walking hand in hand, talking about their future, rebuilding trust. But the scars remained. Lila knew Richard wouldn't give up so easily, and Ethan's resolve would be tested again. Back home, Lila sat on their couch, staring at the wedding band on her finger. She'd fought for her marriage, but the cost had been high. Ethan was trying, but could he truly break free from his father's shadow? Could they build a life free of manipulation? She didn't have all the answers, but she had hope. And for now, that was enough. What would you do if your family tried to control your love? Is Ethan right to stand by Lila, or should he have kept the peace with his father? Share your thoughts on where justice lies in this tangled web of loyalty and betrayal.